So our first speaker, I'm delighted to introduce Andy Grays. Andy is the CEO of the Guildhall Trust, joining the Trust in 2012. But he's spent his whole career in arts management. Not only did he work on the opening of Miss Saigon at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, he was the manager at the Lyric Theatre in Shaftesbury Avenue before opening and developing many unique venues, including the Hat Factory in Luton and the Luton Cultural Trust. Welcome, Andy.
Good morning. It's always a bit nervous when you're actually normally on that side of the stage and being able to watch everybody on this side. You don't have to worry about much until you actually step on it, and how frightening that actually feels. I'm also slightly wary that we had a conference here about a year ago for cultural organisations, and after the speeches were supposed to finish, there was all sort of red flashing lights and buzzers telling people to get off stage. And looking at my colleagues in the wings, their opportunity to get their boss off stage might be just too much for them to ignore, but we'll give it a go. On behalf of the Guildhall Trust, I'd like to welcome you to the Portsmouth Guildhall and this year's Shaping Conference. It is always a huge privilege to host it here and to have the chance to applaud Steph, Stuart, Sam, Matt, Yvonne, and all those who contribute to the planning and delivery of this fantastic annual event. When we took over the management of the Guildhall in 2011, we faced the challenge of reinventing the building in a fast-changing sector. We saw the dominance of arenas, globally run venue chains, and a general threat to the independent sector from diminished funding, increased building costs, and much more. Our ethos was to diversify the building's use in order to establish it so that it could thrive and survive. As a charity, we have a passion for culture, community, and to support the development of our young people within the city and the wider region. You can see from some of the numbers on the screen, we are one of many wonderful organisations in this room whose work is dedicated to supporting the development of the next generation. The work of arts organisations such as ours is often framed by the passion and experience of its management and employees. As you've heard, I've spent the past 35 years working across the UK, and whilst there has invariably been significant improvements and a better understanding of how the arts impacts our local environment, many of the characteristics I have seen since the 1980s in towns such as Liverpool, Manchester, even Basildon and Luton still echo in Portsmouth. The picture for our young people in Portsmouth is challenging. Some of our wards rank within the bottom 10% of the most deprived wards in the UK, and we still see barriers to entry which stop young people considering entering higher education or its equivalent. The map on the screen gives you some indication of the east-west divide in our city. For Portsmouth, you can read dozens of other similar towns and cities across the UK, where there is a historic pattern of deprivation over many decades. From a cultural perspective, we fear the lack of opportunities for young people to engage with culture due to their circumstances and therefore barriers to progression. These so-called progression routes to further and higher education and into creative careers are a challenge to those of us working in the cultural sector. Equally, we want an equality of provision and choice for young people. Our work with young people is focused on skills development in the creative sector, going out to schools, delivering our Creative Careers Roadshow, producing Dance Live and running Creative Choices events. When the opportunity arose in 2021 to apply to Arts Council for capital funding, we sat down with the City Council and agreed that the development of our basement area should be the next phase of this building's refurbishment. The Council have been as good as their word when in 2020 they allocated some much-needed funding to update and develop the interiors. For those of you who, when attending a concert here, have endured our basement toilets, not least the weird and wonderful smells which emerge whilst queuing for a drink at the bar, it won't surprise you that they were top of the list for development. However, what will we do to the main basement space? Our thinking was informed by our work these past 10 years in consultation with many organisations who utilise the Guildhall. A creative space for young people. Opening in early 2024, it will support local young people to develop their creative potential, targeting those aged 14 to 25 living in Portsmouth. Therefore, a space for collaboration, a space to perform and practice music, a space to meet and feel safe, a space to access specialist AV programs to support creative study from GCSE through FE, HE and interprofessional practice, a space to devise and exhibit art, a space to engage with workshops, training and development, and a space which is accessible and free to use. The new space, which is to be called the Base, will have a band rehearsal room, DJ mixing booths, a specialist AV suite with software covering music tech, film editing, design and much more. A relaxing and hopefully inspirational lounge area for young people to hang out, perform, exhibit and do so much more than that as well. We'll appoint a youth arts coordinator who, with the support of our learning and participation team and technicians, will oversee the weekly provision of workshops, training and development. We've spoken with many young people and heard from teachers and parents. A report in 2019 titled "How Can We Engage with More Young People in Art and Culture" talks about changing attitudinal barriers, such as arts isn't for people like you, functional barriers, such as we can't take part because the opportunity just isn't there, and practical barriers, such as cost, location, and a lack of information. We know that a multi-agency partnership approach is essential for this new creative space to succeed. We welcome engagement with local businesses and fellow cultural organisations who share our vision. It would not change the world, but it could help transform young lives here in Portsmouth. We are thankful to the Council, the Arts Council in supporting this development, and to my Board of Trustees for allowing our organisation to financially commit. Once this phase of works has been completed, we will move on to the refurbishment of our front of house areas, including new seating in the concert hall and decoration. Our plan is to complete the full refurbishment of the Guildhall within the next 5 years, or before my hair gets any greyer. I hope you have a great conference and thank you for listening.